Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. With college football season officially underway, you'll be seeing a lot of today's guest, ESPN's Maria Taylor. Maria has quickly become a star broadcaster known for her versatility and drive. She is the co-host of College Game Day, sideline reporter for ABC's Saturday Night Football, and is expected to be added to NBA Countdown this season. Maria also covers men's and women's college basketball and volleyball for ESPN. Maria is used to juggling. She was a two-sport athlete at the University of Georgia where she played basketball and was an all-SEC performer in volleyball. Passionate about paying it forward, Maria is the co-founder of the Winning Edge Leadership Academy, which helps young women and minorities get opportunities in the sports industry. On today's episode, we talk about the hustle it requires to break into the industry, the lessons in failing fast and moving forward, and how she discovered power in using her voice. You'll also get a pretty cool insider's look at what it's really like to work the biggest games and sit down with sports' biggest stars. And before we get to the show, please take 30 seconds and leave a rating or review to help others discover the show. Here's my conversation with a real game changer, Maria Taylor. Maria Taylor, thank you so much for taking a minute, for coming on our show. It's certainly a pleasure to have you on. You're someone I certainly admire. Thanks for the work that you do.
Thanks so much for having me on, Molly. Seriously. You inspire me and you inspire a lot of women. So,
Oh, you're kind. So, you're all over ESPN. I mean, you're all over, and we just talked about this a little bit on the outside looking in. People see such a glamorous job, right? They see the lights come on, the camera go on, they see you do what you do, but it's a bit of a grind, right? And how did you break into the industry? And maybe you can give everybody a sort of a dose of the reality, right, that it takes to do what you do and get where you've gotten.
Yeah, I always tell people they want to work in sports until they work in sports. And you realize that you have no weekends and you're probably working from September all the way through July. And you're like thankful for August. And then you realize, oh, it's week 0.
Right, sure.
But I've always been very passionate about sports because I'm tall, I'm 6'2". So I kind of found my identity in it. When growing up, when I was too tall and gangly to fit into one group or the other, it always felt comfortable to be on a court. So played volleyball and basketball at Georgia. And I knew right before I graduated that I didn't necessarily want to play professionally or become a coach, but I wanted to stay around the game in some way, shape, or form. And we used to always have people coming to broadcast our games at Georgia. And I thought, that'd be a fun job. Like, how do I get that job? So that's when I started working in journalism. And I had an internship my senior year at Fox Sports South, which is based in Atlanta.
Sure.
And the first time I was on live television was Comcast Sports South, also based in Atlanta. And they kind of put me on a path where I was able to work volleyball, basketball, college football, and it was at a very low level. So if I made mistakes, that was okay, which is always very important. I always tell the girls or anyone that I talk to, men, women, that you want to start out in a place where you can make mistakes. And so if you start out with that top job and you fall and you fail, then you don't get another chance. So it's important to start, climbing. You have to climb. That's the best way to do it. And I know that from a broadcasting standpoint, but that's kind of how I broke in. Those were some of those initial steps.
Sure. Well, there's a reason, right? You're often an assistant coach before you're the head coach, right?
Yeah, because you don't know what you're getting into until you get into it. Yes. And you got to work out some kinks first, right?
Amen, girl. So, you talk about how early in your career you said yes to about everything. Tell our listeners a little bit about that. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, there's a power in yes. Now I'm learning there's a power in no too, but let's start with yes. Right. The power of yes is that, your bosses and stuff, they will come to you and know that you are dependable and that, even when it's not comfortable for you, you're willing to sacrifice for the team. And so sometimes like saying yes started when I played college volleyball and I had to switch positions. Like, no, I didn't want to go from right side to outside. I liked my position on the right side, but it was better for my team because we had another player who could, like, literally she needed to play right side. That was her best position. So I needed to move. So then you build up a little bit of this almost ammunition. So when you want to request a promotion or there's an opportunity that you're really interested in, your bosses will respond to you with, okay, we got to find a way to help out Maria because she helped us out. So I said yes to everything. I mean, I did lacrosse tournaments. I did 7-on-7 matches. I did the lowest of the low, like SEC volleyball and basketball games. And I didn't care. Like my mom would ride with me from Knoxville to Oxford because I did a game on Friday and then Sunday morning I needed to be in Oxford, so things that weren't comfortable at the time, I was willing to do it. And again, just never saying no. I did a lot of ACC digital stuff. I didn't mind being online versus on TV. And that was before kind of like everything has been thrust to digital. So it's interesting we were there a little bit early, but I was okay with it. Yeah. I did radio for women's basketball. I did online broadcasts for volleyball, whatever it took. And so there was a big power in saying yes. And it makes your bosses, makes people around you realize that she's dependable. She'll always try to do what's best.
Well, absolutely. And I'm sure saying yes sent a message to your bosses, but clearly it also gave you a platform to learn in sort of these smaller moments, right? That roll up to you being able to put a mic in front of Dabo Sweeney or Saban and feel confident about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, I mean, some of those saying yes was I remember working high school football games and we never even had wireless mics. I mean, I would pick up a mic on one side of the field and have to run to the other to interview the other coach and pick up like another mic that was on a wire. And so it's kind of like dealing with some of those more stressful and strenuous moments that makes what I do now so easy. Like now I have a person with me and there's a light guy and then there's a monitor so I can see what's happening on TV. And if anything happened to my audio or, my ears, if I couldn't hear anything, there's like 3 people that will come and assist, so sure. It's actually so much easier now than it was when I was working high school football. And you would think it would be so much more stressful or something like that, but it's not. Yeah. In a lot of ways, it really isn't.
Yeah, that's awesome. So along the way, I would imagine, Maria, there were moments of self-doubt, right? Moments when you wondered, wow, can I do this, right? Or I'm here and can I do this? Tell me maybe about a moment like that and how do you lean into that? How have you leaned into that to create a clearer path forward?
Sure. I used to have that moment all the time when I would meet with coaches. So you go into a meeting room and it's you, a head coach more than likely, you're a producer, you're a director, and your analyst and your play-by-play guy. And so every time I was in these meetings, obviously it was all 50 and up white men because that's what, that group consists of. Sure. And I would be this 20-something, younger Black girl from Atlanta who didn't have much in common with most anyone that was sitting in the room. And in a lot of ways, I felt small in those moments or felt as though maybe I don't belong. A lot of times, I dreaded these meetings. I was like, why can't I just like not go to the meeting and talk to coach on the side later? Or, go meet with players. And because I always felt comfortable with players. And I learned because one day Matt Millen is someone who I really look up to. And he was an analyst for us, the very first ESPN package that I got. And he always told me, he was like, we need to hear from you because your voice is important and there's a reason why you're here. He was the first person to kind of say that to me. And then he was also the first person to kind of recognize that there was something uncomfortable about the situation. We were in Utah. We went to Provo, Utah for a BYU game. And me and him are walking to dinner. And he was like, you know what? It takes a lot of guts for you to fly from Atlanta and be out here in Provo, Utah. It's like, there's probably like 3 other Black people here or people of color. And you were just out here about to do this game. And, he's like, I'm proud of you. And I recognize that it's not always easy. And so there were, 2 things in that, just kind of like somebody recognizing that there was an issue or could be a feeling that I have and like validating that for me was good and empowering. And then also requesting, like asking me, pushing me really to be more open, to communicate even more with the group. Because like he said, like you belong here. Like there's a reason why you're here. Don't ever forget that.
That's awesome. So So tell me this. I mean, he gave you confidence in those moments.
Mhm.
And, but maybe there's people listening that say, "Hi, that guy, he sounds amazing, right? But I don't have
Mhm.
somebody like that in my life." And I'm
Totally
sure there's
understand that.
moments where, maybe you have to tell yourself some things. What do you
Mhm.
do in those moments when maybe that ambassador isn't beside you and you need to get yourself through a tough spot?
I think, and too, because you've probably been in these situations, those are the times when you have to say, like, I'm going to be so great that no one can take me out the game.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was maybe like a June, I guess I got a new coach my junior year of college for volleyball, and we just did not get along. He barely talked to me. He was like calling me disrespectful, all kinds of stuff that you couldn't control. And, this is before the transfer age. So I was like, I'm going to stay here and I just have to make sure that he can't take me out the game. So like, you're going to have to start me because I'm going to play so hard. I'm going to work so hard that you need me on the court. You know what I mean? That I'm always going to be a contributor. And I don't care if you don't talk to me. That's fine. But I'm still going to contribute to this group. And, at the end of the day, my teammates will know that I belong here. And sometimes that's kind of like the bulldog mentality you have to take on in our situation, because you're right. No one's going to be there to validate you. All you can do is be prepared, work hard, and let everyone know that, guess what? You can't take me off the game.
Absolutely.
I don't care if you don't want me here, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave.
I'm going to crush it so much. There's no
Right.
way in your right mind you could pull me.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome. You talked
Mhm.
about being in the room, right, with the coaches
Mhm.
and the staff. And you've done such an incredible job of building great relationships with people, and you do it fast. How do you do that? What are some of the tactics, techniques you use to build that connection so that you gain that trust and
Mhm.
and obviously a bit of a rapport for that moment, but also moving forward?
Yeah, I think one of the things I always do, especially when I know that someone's like sitting down for an interview, or even right before I get tossed down to on the field and I'm with the coach, it might be the game just ended, but I'm going to ask him real quick, like, how do you feel? Or what's going through your head? You know what I mean? Like, so I'm checking his temperature beforehand. And then that way, and he might say something great that I'm going to use. I think against Florida, Miami, I just came off that game. And before they tossed down at me, I'm talking to Mullen and he's looking at me like, deep breath, they barely made out of it with a win. And he's like, win at all costs, or whatever it takes to win, something along those lines. So that was one of the lines that I used in that very first question, because it's something that he said,
Sure.
And so a lot of people like to hear that you're listening to them. And I do the same thing before a player sits down for an interview. I'm asking them, so what class did you come from? And what are your interests? And like, let's talk about something that's not football, because rarely do they ever have someone talking to them about something that's not their sport.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to come up with other identifiers. I was just talking to a player from Clemson, and he just got out of his international business class, and they're studying Coke and Starbucks and global strategies. And so next time I see him, I'm going to ask him, okay, so what did your group decide? What's the global strategy for Starbucks? Or what's the global strategy for McDonald's, And so now we can have a conversation outside of sports. And, people just feel like you're listening, you're hearing them, and you want to know them beyond maybe what they can offer you, which in my case, in my space, is usually their athletic ability.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's awesome. Speaking of sitting down with incredible leaders, coaches, athletes, are there nuggets of wisdom that have stood out to you that you've learned along the way in some of these awesome conversations?
Oh man, there's so many. I get to sit down all the time with coaches like Nick Saban, and, he teaches his team how to push through the fourth quarter. And so, we all have a fourth quarter in life, and we could have it every day. Like, it could be that time when you're like, all I want to do is take a nap,
Mm-hmm.
And so during those times, he's teaching his kids that, like, if you rely on your discipline, if you rely on togetherness, and if you have this mindset that throughout any practice or throughout every day, you're constantly relying on, say, these principles, then they're going to show up when you're exhausted. The discipline to make sure that you're ahead of steam in a project that's due, that's going to show up because you're just kind of used to it. You've set your mind to it. And that's something that always sticks out, because Alabama, a lot of time, even in the last couple of years, they've beat Georgia in the fourth quarter. They were never leading, but in every championship game, they've come back and beat him. I'm like, what is it that he does about the late game situations? But it's like, no. It's a mindset that they always have. One, they never think they're out of the game. They believe they're always supposed to win the game. And then they've been training for the fourth quarter since day one of camp. That's what they preach.
Well, and he's obviously one of the most intense coaches out there, right? I mean, and I know some people don't like playing for him and they don't like working for him, but they like winning, more.
Yes, exactly. They have a poster. They have a poster in there, right in one of their meeting rooms, and it's like Kobe came to speak, and it's something along the lines of like, winning isn't supposed to be fun. Like, you don't have to have fun if you're winning, because it's naturally going to, you know what I mean? Like the process to get to winning is not fun. It's not like the process to be a successful sports agent is not necessarily fun, but getting that client and getting them the deal that they want, or being at the national championship for me, like getting there wasn't always fun, but now being there and doing that interview at the end of a game, that's fun.
Absolutely.
Like, cause that's the win, and so that's what you have to keep in perspective. And sometimes I think what we lose along the way sometimes, because there's a lot of, I was just talking to my parents about this, but when they were growing up, it was like we were trying to secure food and shelter, and that equals like our happiness. And now, like, she feels like our generation, we're trying to go first to self-actualization or whatever. And so we just want like the good feeling all the time. And it's like, it's not always a good feeling.
Absolutely.
It's going to hurt and you have to work hard.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what I don't think, and I represented so many broadcasters, I don't think people realize the amount of prep time that goes into what you do. That, I mean, it is an unbelievable amount of prep that you have to do before you have these conversations, because the last thing you want to do is ask a question that isn't on point, right? And and so what is your preparation? How important is that to you?
Oh, very much so. Even last night, I went to the U.S. Open during, to see Serena, obviously spirit animal. And then I came back and I know what players that I'm getting today from Auburn to interview. So I'm just going through kind of taking notes on their background, because the same thing where you're trying to break down walls. I want to know where you're from, parents involved in your life. Did dad coach you? That kind of stuff, and trying to get to those stories. And I'm not doing a very good job if I hop on the phone with the kid and waste their time asking questions that I could have Googled,
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
No one likes that feeling. And I'm sure you've probably been there before too. You've been interviewed, you're like, you know what, you could have just looked this up. Like, why are we here? So that's important, because you lose some of that. You lose a little bit of that trust, and you lose a little bit of that relationship building. You know what I mean? So that's why that's so important.
Hey, before we go back to the show, just a reminder to join us on November 7th in Atlanta for a one-day game-changer negotiation training workshop. This isn't your typical workshop. No boring PowerPoints or fill-in-the-blank workbooks. We follow a simple 3-step process. Learn the framework, practice through interactive exercises, apply the new skills right away. Whether you're in sales, HR, or marketing, you'll leave with a framework to apply to every negotiation and the confidence to get results. Register today at GameChanger360.com. That's GameChanger360.com. You seem like somebody, and I can kind of relate to this, who thrives on having a ton on your plate, right? How do you manage your energy? How do you manage your energy so that you avoid burnout?
Oh, Molly.
How much time do you have?
Yes, I'm trying to get better at that, because I think I got so used to always having to say yes, and like making sure that I, was the first one at the starting line and like the last one in the gym and all those things like that, because that gets you to where you are.
Sure.
And now it's like, okay, I'm trying to find balance. Like, I just got married in May and I want to spend time with my husband. We want to be able to start a family over the next 3 years. So what does that look like? What does my job kind of transition to, or what becomes the most important things to me in this season of life? But I do know, like right now, I still have to carve out time. Like, I journal. I still spend time like in my devotionals. Sometimes if I wake up late, then it might just turn into listening to a podcast that I find inspiring. I listen to a lot of Oprah, Super Soul.
Oh, I love that one.
Love it.
She's awesome.
Joyce Meyer is my girl for like faith. I love Elevation Church. And so Stephen Furtick is another guy that I listen to a ton. And so those times when I need to like be refilled or poured into, I know where to go to kind of get some of that. And then I'm also trying to do better, just like check in with your friends once a week. Like I have probably 5 friends that I need to talk to once a week. And I can do that. I just have to carve the time out. So that's like another way to find balance.
Absolutely, to avoid. And how have you learned how to say no now? Because clearly at the level that you're at, no is key at this point in your life. And there's so many leaders listening who have, sort of climbed the ladder, if you will, in the corporate world and probably done similar things, said yes, yes, yes. But now they have to focus on what matters most and say no. How do you say no?
The first thing I have to tell myself is, okay, you don't have to prove anything. Stop always trying to prove something. And then I start there, and then I ask myself, okay, what do you want to do? Do you really want to do this? Like, say it's another filling in on 10 shows during football season. Do you want to do that? And if that's something that you really want to do, then do it. If you feel like it's going to be overwhelming or it's not going to add value to what, your overall goal is, then don't do it and be okay with it, because you're not trying to prove anything to anyone. So that's like slowly but surely where I'm getting to. But the first thing I have to tell myself is like, okay, first stop. You don't have to prove anything. Now, if you know that, then what are you going to do? What do you want to do?
That's cool. That's your system. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you've covered incredible moments, right? In sports, the NBA draft, championship wins, and you've covered really bad losses. Does one stand out as more memorable to cover, and why?
I mean, definitely the Georgia run to the national championship, just being my alma mater. And it being against Alabama, another team that I'm so familiar with. So it was like everything had lined up perfectly for me to feel like I was in the know of everything. And it was interesting to just be at the Rose Bowl, which was an incredible game. It was like the first time there was an overtime game at the Rose Bowl. And it's crazy because maybe 3 or 4 years before that, I made like one of my biggest mistakes at a Rose Bowl when it was the first time I covered it. So I said productician instead of production or productivity, and productician is not a word. And, of course, Twitter lights up and social media lights up, and they tell you you're stupid and dumb. And like, where did this girl come from? Because they'd never seen me before. It was my first time on ABC. And I really thought my career was over. And then so to flash forward 4 years, and then you're covering your alma mater and the Rose Bowl, and it's an overtime game, and you're interviewing, the Georgia head coach. And then my dad called right after. He's like, see, God brought you right back to where you thought your career was over to bring you to like one of your highest moments. And so that was one.
Absolutely. How did you handle that real quick when Twitter blew up? I mean, I saw that with my athletes and coach all the time.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Okay, so you have to do like a little PR stunt. So I got on Twitter and I like defined productician. So I was like, productician is,
So you had a little
such
fun
an
with
extreme
it.
level. Yeah, I had a little fun with my like self on Twitter, but I was like upset. I mean, my mom was there. I was crying the next day. And I just remember her looking at me and being like, Maria, no one cares. Like, if you seriously take yourself that seriously, that you think people are still thinking about the fact that you say a word wrong, then nothing that you believe is true. Like, nothing about faith as far as like putting others first and da da da. Like, if you think that you are that important, then there's a problem. And so I was like,
wow.
Oh, she's right.
Yeah.
Moms are all, but it's true. Like, how many times do we get so wrapped up in something and it's like, you're not even that important in the grand scheme of things.
I remember my mom saying to me, when I really at a young age thought that the world revolved around sports, that was sort of the center of the universe. And she literally said, honey, not everybody cares about these guys and gals that you work with. A lot of people don't care. And it was sort of a wake up call to like you had, I think, a little bit, that just gives you perspective, which is powerful.
Yeah.
It's super powerful. How much did being a student athlete, which by the way is insane, a 2-sport student athlete at a D1 school like Georgia, unbelievable. How much did that help you do what you do?
I think it informs everything I do, from the stories I can tell you about. I did not get along with my coach, but still playing for him, not leaving so I can get along with any boss, knowing how to fail. I know what it's like to lose and be the reason why your team lost, and I know how to be like, we got to wake up and go to practice tomorrow. So I can't sit in there and cry and be upset about it. Like, I got to get on to the next play. And, athletes learn how to fail fast, which is so important, because obviously we're all going to make mistakes and we're all going to do things wrong. And it's about the way that you bounce back from it. And that is probably the most important lesson that I've ever learned, is failing fast. And it's something that I run into a lot too, with like endurance and perseverance. Like, pushing through things that don't feel good. There's a lot of pain that you feel when you're training. There's a lot of pushback from your own body or your mind telling you can't do something, and then you accomplish it and you're like, wow, how did I get here? I did it. Yeah.
Sure.
But it's like, there's a mental endurance that you gain from being an athlete. That's incredible.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And I would imagine it helps you connect with the athletes, coaches you're interviewing.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, they're always like, you're huge. Like, what'd you play? So it's like, that's my instant barrier breakdown. Like, let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So people ask me this all the time, Maria, and I'm sure you get asked about being a woman in a male dominated industry. How have you navigated that?
I think the biggest thing is realizing that for the most part, like, the guys don't care that you're a woman. They just want to know that you're going to be like a friend to them, or you are going to get along with them, or they're going to be able to have some similar conversations with you. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Once you're in the locker room, you're in the locker room. No one cares. Yeah. If you don't make a big deal about it, they won't make a big deal about it. And so I think in a lot of ways that means you have to pick and choose your battle. Like, there are certainly days when I could have probably reported something, but I'm in the grand scheme, like, where does that get me? Where would that put me? Am I willing to deal with this and like just work with the guy on it? Go, man to man or woman to man. And most of the time that works. You know what I mean? Like, a direct conversation works, clears it up. They've never had it before. For sure. And we move on and we never have an issue again.
That's awesome. Right. And so what would you tell people in the corporate world, right? I mean, that are women in a male dominated industry, and on what advice do you give to young people about how to navigate it?
Well, I always tell the women, because again, in those meetings, I would always try to like push away from the table. So pull your seat up to the table. That's okay. Like, be a part of the conversation. Let your voice be heard, because it's important. The reason why you are there is to give your opinion, and the diverse opinion matters probably more than anyone else's. And just to remember that you belong. And so, like, the moment that you get that through your head, even if you have to say it 12 times before you walk into a meeting, like, I belong here, I belong here, I belong here, just say it out loud to make yourself believe it until you believe it, because you're always going to operate in a space of fear if you don't get that through your head. Or you're always going to operate in a space where you're just afraid to say anything or be wrong. Right. And it's like, it's okay to be wrong. They're wrong. Right. That's what I always say. I'm like, act like the guys. They don't know what's going on. Half the time they're just saying stuff. They don't care.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where I think preparation really is powerful, and saying something that maybe they don't expect you to know because of the fact that you're a female. I mean, I did that all the time with a baseball player or golfer, where you'd make a comment about last night's game, or about why did they grab their 7-iron in that moment instead of, you would make comments that they instantly go, whoa, this chick, she kind of like gets it. She's in my world. Are there moments like that you've done that as well? And have you found that to work?
Oh, absolutely. It happens all the time with players, especially. I've been blessed to work with guys like, David Pollock, who he'll just like, you just kind of know your stuff. Like, I just appreciate that about you. You know your stuff. Yeah. And he's like, and another thing that he always says, and I think that guys find this special for some reason, or they think we're not capable of it. They expect emotions all the time because, obviously there's a stereotype. Sure. But he always says, he's like, you're the same person every day. I always know what I'm going to get. Like, and I'm like, really? That's the most important thing to you? That I'm the same person? Those are the two things: being prepared and, like, obviously just being the same person, whoever you are, like, being genuinely you. That's important too.
Yeah, for sure. No, I don't know if I should say this on a podcast or not, but in the spirit of keeping it real, I remember one time one of my athletes, a baseball player, looked at me and I can't remember the moment, and he goes, it's interesting. He goes, you're like a dude with boobs.
Yes.
And it was so interesting. I go, I don't know if that's good or bad, but all right, I got you, man. That's good.
But it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I know. Sure. I'm always kind of afraid to say it too, but I'm like, honestly, like, if you act like the guys and they accept you and they want you around, you're invited to everything. They want you there.
Absolutely. But I think we've got to also be ourselves all along the way. Like, what I'm hearing from you too is, yes, you're connecting, but you're being yourself, 100%. Which to me is huge, So I want to talk about something that I know you are super passionate about, and I think it is so, so cool. The Winning Edge Leadership Academy. Tell our listeners kind of what it's all about and how maybe they can get involved.
Well, the Winning Edge Leadership Academy is a nonprofit that I started in 2015, and we have grown so much. But it is a mentor. It started as a mentorship nonprofit. So we wanted to just pair minorities and women with individuals that were doing work in sports, because we recognize how difficult it is to break into the sports industry. And so we're just trying to like bridge the gap. We know that there's a bunch of students that have great potential. And we also know that there's a network of people that want to help them get these jobs, but there's no bridge for them. So it started out as just like a year-long mentorship program. And since then, it's evolved into, we really work uniquely with student athletes because they have a unique set of constructs when it comes to doing an internship or being able to go to some of the experiences that a student can, and also just interning during the year. So we create micro internships. With the last 2 years, we've had retreats, one in Miami and one in Atlanta. So we bring them in for 4 straight days. We pair them with a mentor. You know, we have people coming in to speak about championship mindsets and also doing site visits. We went to Turner, the Braves, Jackson Spalding, which is a sports marketing firm in Atlanta. We also had a summit in Beverly Hills, and we worked with my agency, WME, William Morris Endeavor. So kids who wanted to maybe work in sports production, like documentary films. So we had Spring Hill come in. That's LeBron's production company. So we had guys that are working on Space Jam, literally coming in and talking to the kids.
That's so cool for them.
Guys who were agents that were repping, and you would like this, The Rock, you know? So they're working on deals constantly.
Sure.
And one of our girls plays volleyball. She like stays in touch with him to this day and is constantly talking to him about, okay, she really wants to move to LA. She's interested in becoming an agent. How can she have a micro internship as a sophomore volleyball player next July for maybe just a week and then come back for senior year as well? So it's interesting. It's been great. Like, I think everyone who's touched the nonprofit feels as though we're moving in the right direction. We're obviously always trying to find different ways to grow and corporations to partner with and continue to work with. But I think what we're learning is the student athlete population, like you said, like they work hard. They're unique in certain ways, but there's also like there's a lot of room for growth there. And we just want to get more faces that look like the players on the field or on the court in the suites, you know, working as the bosses and running things, finding that balance.
And so how do people get involved that are listening?
So go to thewinningedgeleadership.org. And we have options on our first page, and literally it says get involved. And if you're a student, there's ways to get involved. Obviously, you got to fill out a form and tell us all about yourself. And then that way we'll stay in touch with you and let you know when retreats are coming up or summits or opportunities for you to mix and mingle. We also have networking events, dinners of influence. And then if you're an industry professional, we also have like become a mentor, getting involved that way. Obviously, giving money is always much appreciated. We work a lot with we have great corporate sponsors like Adidas, but every little bit counts.
Absolutely. God, that is so cool. And you started this in what year?
2015.
That's fantastic. Good for you.
Thank you. One of our best stories that I always like to tell, her name is Grayson Doctor, and she was a part of our very first cohort. So we call each group. And she was my mentee. And when we got her, before the season started or the year started for her, and she was a volleyball player, her mom was killed in the Charleston 9 shooting. So, you know, it was literally, we had already planned she was going to be a part of this group, and this was just what was going to happen. Then she loses her mom, like tremendous tragedy, and she's kind of battling her way through it. She still graduates from college. But once she finishes and our year is over of mentoring, she just kind of like drops out of sight, out of mind, doesn't know what she really wants to do. You know, she's grieving. So it takes her three years to get through that. And she calls me last year, right around like basketball season, end of football, beginning of basketball. And she's like, I figured out what I want to do. I'm ready to like start my life again. I want to go to Syracuse graduate school, and I want to study journalism of the arts. And that's my passion. That's what I want to do. I've decided how can I do that? So we worked together, like Winning Edge. We paid for her application fees. Grayson and I, her essay, she would write them. I'd read them. You know, we'd edit them together. She'd send them back. And then she came with me. I had a basketball game at Syracuse. So she came up with me. We went and visited every professor in that program, you know, did a tour of the facilities, literally everything. And then she found out that she got in. And so she's now at Syracuse now getting her graduate degree. And I went up there and helped her move in. Like anything that, like, it can be that small. You know what I mean? Like,
that doesn't
let's
sound
go,
that
come
small.
on.
That sounds awesome. That is so cool.
But
wow.
she's one of my favorite stories, seriously. And we still want to help her. Like, we don't want her to have a ton of student loan debt because, her mom would have helped in some ways with that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she's struggling in that way. But we're still like, okay, we're going to do anything that we can. If we can help her move in, we'll help her move in. Next thing, okay, so how do we help you with this fee or that fee? Or what are the small things that we could take off of your plate? Can we pay your cell phone bill while you're in school? The things that someone from a more affluent background might have, or a 2-parent household might have, and she didn't because,
Mm-hmm.
she's a first-generation college graduate and she lost her mom. So,
oh my gosh, Maria, that's great stuff. I mean, that is powerful stuff. I mean, because you're seeing it and you're going one-on-one and you're helping these people and you're changing their lives. It's awesome. So we end with rapid fire. I'm going to fire off a couple questions to you, and you just tell me what comes up. All right?
Okay.
One
good.
word to describe yourself.
Passionate.
One word others would use to describe you.
Funny.
Favorite college game day location, but it can't be Athens.
That's a good one. Let's go with Austin, Texas. We're going there for the first time. I'm just going to assume it's going to be great.
There we go. What's your favorite perk of the job?
The players that I get to meet and get to know, and their families too.
One person you'd love to interview that you haven't yet.
Ooh, I would love to interview Megan Rapinoe.
Okay. What is success to you?
What is the Maya Angelou quote? It's like doing what you love, loving what you do, and something along those lines.
All right. We'll add that to the show notes. We'll fill it in. So the show's called Game Changers. So one last question. What game changer inspires you and why?
I got two. My basketball coach, Andy Landers, because he was the one who basically was like, go do broadcasting. That's your future.
Yeah.
And Robin Roberts, because she has done everything. And every time I need her, she picks up the phone. And she's the same person on TV as she is in real life.
She is such a class act. It is amazing that you use those two names, because when I moved to Atlanta, Andy Landers had no business, and he took 15 minutes to meet with me and give me advice.
Oh, yes.
And Robin Roberts did the same, girl. So those are two of my favorites too.
Yes.
They're just very kind.
Gems. Just don't make them like them anymore.
Exactly. All right, Maria Taylor, you are awesome. Thanks for what you're doing in sports, and thanks for the Winning Edge Leadership Academy and the influence you're having on young people's lives. It's good stuff. It's awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Molly. I appreciate it. Don't worry, you're part of the Leadership Academy now. So.
I'm ready, girl. I'm in.
Thanks.
Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. On the next episode of Game Changers, I'm joined by Enneagram expert Ian Cron. We dig into the Enneagram, which is a personality assessment, to discover the 9 personality types and how we can better understand one another at work. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.